Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one lives countries. Laugh to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Game On. Excuse me. Right here on UCUI.TV, the best little network on the internet, as far as I'm concerned, anyways. And it is 15th of March. And it's nice and light. Well, except for the fog, it's nice and light. It's nice to see the clock's gone ahead. And I'm going to start this show tonight in my hometown. Where green light for medical marijuana, right in Kincardine, Ontario. Finally, Kincardines Medical Marijuana Facility has been given the green light to start growing medical marijuana. Supreme Pharmaceuticals, Advanced Medical Marijuana Canada, that's the name of the company. Or AMM Can, received its license on Friday. Now, a license, of course, is nothing more than giving someone the right to do something that is unlawful. So, growing weed is unlawful. Unless you got a license, then it's lawful. Now, whether these guys grow the weed or you grow the weed in your backyard, you're still growing the weed. But they got a license and you don't. It's unlawful for you to grow the weed, but apparently it's not unlawful for Supreme Pharmaceuticals, Advanced Medical Marijuana Canada, to grow the weed. That's what I love about the legal system. It's unlawful. But anyways, this is our little town here. AMM Can CEO Peter Herberger says the Kincardine Greenhouse facility has been in the works since 2013. Supreme Pharmaceuticals bought the Bruce Energy Center greenhouse for $4.5 million in 2013 and spent another $5 million renovating the facility for the biggest grow op around. Remember all the headlines? Police bust grow op in a house. Woo, 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 woo. Front page news, 5 people, 7 people, 12 people arrested. But here we are on the front page of our local paper. Supreme Pharmaceuticals is going to grow the weed that you can't grow. Now the company has to go, let's see, last year Herberger had to lay off staff because of delays in getting the approvals necessary to grow the marijuana. Now the company has to go through 2 cycles of growing and testing before getting a selling license from Health Canada. This is the same outfit that way back when I was a teenager, was trying to convince my parents that if I smoked weed, I'd probably turn into a vicious killer or jump off a building or some other ridiculous thing. But the new Health Canada, well, they're just going to give Supreme Pharmaceuticals a license to grow the weed. Herberger is hopeful they will get the go-ahead to sell medical marijuana late this year or early in 2017. Initially, there were about 20 staff, but as production is ramped up, the staffing will increase to about 120. So if you're looking for a job growing weed, you might want to phone up Supreme Pharmaceuticals. AMMC or AMCAN will have 340,000 square feet under glass when in full production. Now, I don't know how much weed you can grow under 340,000 square feet, but I bet it's a lot more than a grow op in your basement. But you can't grow it in your basement because it's illegal. Go get a license. Then you can break the law legally. But anyways, they're going to have 120 people. Now, this used to be, the idea of these greenhouses way back when was it was the excess steam off the nuclear plant up here. So this is tied to the nuclear plant. So I'm not sure if they're still using the steam or they're using gas now. But the idea of the excess steam was that they could use it in a greenhouse. So we had greenhouses here growing tomatoes and stuff for the longest time. But that all got shut down, and now we're going to grow weed. Meanwhile, at the same time, our environment minister is telling us that we will suffer shortages of fruits and vegetables because we can't grow them in Canada. And we're heavily dependent on California, which apparently is in the worst drought since ever. And therefore, we won't be able to have our fruits and vegetables, and they expect some 500,000 people to die in the world because of that by 2050. But if you need some weed, come on up, because we're going to have lots of weed from Supreme Pharmaceuticals. Now, who in the hell would want a pharmaceutical company growing their weed? I mean, that's just plain stupid if you trust pharmaceutical companies. What's going to be in your weed, boys and girls? You know? Anyways, that's that story. And another story from the local area here. Let's see. Money stolen from our Bruce Telecom here. Bruce Telecom, which is owned by the municipality of Kincardine, apparently got robbed. Which is good because, well, all of these utilities have been robbing us, so I guess it's their turn to get robbed. Now, I didn't do it, although it's a wonder I didn't get a knock on the door. Sales and money, safes and money. I don't know how many safes they got up there. And money stolen from Bruce Telecom on Highway 21 last week. Kincardine police are investigating a break-in at the Bruce Telecom. South Bruce OPP say someone broke into the business on Highway 21 between 10 p.m. last Wednesday and 8 a.m. last Thursday. And we just got the news today. So it's like a week after it was broke into that it actually hits the news. The list of stolen property includes 3 safes, a quantity of Canadian cash and coins, a quantity of U.S. currency, and Bruce Telecom stamps. There is no estimate available for the value of stolen property or cost of repairs, which is kind of odd, because you pretty would think you would have an accounting ledger somewhere of what the hell was in the safes and how much cash was laying around, how many coins were laying around. But nope, no estimate. So I guess they'll be going for the maximum insurance payout on this one. Anyone with information is asked to call South Bruce OPP at 1-888-310-1122. And if you want to talk to some really daft people, phone the South Bruce OPP. Trust me, they've been at my door so many times in the last 7 years. It is ridiculous. And they're not real bright people. So that's that for that. Let's see what else we got going on here. Now, here come the toll roads. Okay, this is in Toronto, studying road toll technology for the Gardiner and the whatever that other highway is. Now, this is not new news. This is UN news. Okay, it brings it out that it's new news. The mayor does not wish to preempt that, or the mayor is not happy about it. Well, the mayor is a big player in Rogers Cable, Rogers Communications. He's just a player, and the tolls are going to be used to offset the construction, $2.5 billion, plus use it to raise money for other infrastructure projects, which is going to be more light rail transit. And what they're doing is they're going to just toll the snot out of you till you can't afford to be on the road. They've already bringing in the carbon taxes on your fuel and that. And the idea is to run you out of your vehicles. That is the whole plan, always been the plan. And people better wake up to that plan and quickly, or you are going to find, and they'll play it off as really good. You know, congestion on the highway seems to be getting lighter and lighter. Well, that's because nobody can afford to be on the damn things. But as Rockefeller said, anything that we can bring forward that will discourage private automobile use, we will fund, and which they do. So, just be prepared that most roads are going to start with these bigger roads, but the documents we saw some years ago, it's going to work its way all the way down to your local road, and that's that. That's where you're going to be till you are walking, because that's what they want from you. They want you to walk. So we have this big spoof on food. You know, the Ontario Environment Minister voiced concern over climate change food supply. Now, this story is a bit ago. I think this is before the Paris conference. Let's see. Glenn Murray has been thinking a lot about where his broccoli is going to come from. Now, he's the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. He's a gay guy, and so he's quite worried about where his broccoli is going to come from. And that's, I guess, gay fear-mongering, I guess you would call that. Oh my God, where's my broccoli going to come from? It must be climate change. Oh my God, there's a freaking what do you call that? A drought over there in California. What the hell are we going to do? How about shut up, right? This idea that we can't grow fruits and vegetables in Canada is the dumbest ass thing I ever heard in my life. If we can put up 340,000 square feet of glass to grow weed, then we could put up 4 million, 10 million feet of glass to grow vegetables and fruits in the wintertime. But that would be too easy. And it would grow better anyways because of climate change. So prior to the California drought, Mr. Murray, Glenn, I guess we call him, Glenn Murray, our little gay environment and climate change minister. Now, the reason I'm not picking on this guy because he's gay, I'm picking on this guy because he's gay, because if you look at the video by Yuri Brezhnev, ex-KGB guy, who was running around Canada, U.S. In the 70s, warning us how this was going to take us down. One of his biggest priorities was that once the gay movement and lesbian movement, feminist movement begin to take control, we're in really big trouble. So that's the only reason I'm picking on them, is that these guys, there's more and more of these people running our show all the time, and it's not good. So Murray was a keynote speaker at the Canadian Climate Conference in Ottawa Friday, where he showed slides demonstrating the worsening effects of drought in the Golden State in recent years. And this is just more Al Gore crap. Here's a slideshow. We made the damn thing up. And be fearful. Oh, my goodness. What are we going to do? We have some real challenges because of our economy doesn't naturally lend itself to good, sustainable decisions in food. Everything has to be a sustainable decision. What the hell is that supposed to mean? A sustainable decision. Right? They throw the word into I had a sustainable dump today. Well, that was quite the sustainable hole you dug in the garden. Well, is that a sustainable ding in the side of your car? Well, that doesn't seem very sustainable, does it? You should go over to the sustainable auto body and get that sustainable dent fixed. These guys will throw that word at anything, anywhere, anytime. And they do. And they do it because we're letting them get away with it. Anyways, there's a other, where is that one? This is another story, if I can find it here. Where the heck was it? And it still has to do. Oh, this is a new one. Okay, this story just came out. So they piggyback these stories, and they piggyback all the time. Climate change could cause food access public health decline. By 2050, says a report, temperature changes could lead to about 500,000 additional deaths worldwide, says a researcher. Well, piss off, Mr. Researcher. Okay? If you were a researcher, you'd go back and read the documents and set all this garbage up, and you'd tell somebody the truth. But you're not that kind of researcher, are you? Anyways, access to fresh fruit, vegetables, and many other foods could be dramatically limited due to climate change by 2050, according to a new report published in the medical journal Lancet. In the report, scientists from the U.S., UK predict a lack of access to nutritious foods, which could see severe decline in public health and, in some cases, death. What we found was that climate change can be expected to lead to about 500,000 additional deaths worldwide in 2050 due to changes to diets and body weight, said Marco Springham, one of the report's authors. He's a researcher in the Department of Population Health at University of Oxford. He says we already know that the unbalanced diets are a leading risk factor for death globally, so he designed a study to measure the real impact using what's called modeling study, or pseudoscience, if you will. So he took the modeling. Well, let me go through this. He said his colleagues worked from existing data on climate changes, which was extracted from computer modeling based on junk science or based on pseudoscience. So he takes that data and adds in his data into his modeling study and to see the changes around the world and how crops will react to those changes. That's on the basis that these changes that they are talking about are real, which they are not. Then they took that data and plugged it into a global agriculture economics model, another model, to gain insight into how markets and farmers react changes to crop output. For example, some farmers might decide to plant larger areas, he said. In addition, prices will change. They'll increase if production decreases, and trade will change that whole picture as well. That's nonsensical horse crap. Heart disease, cancers may rise. The result is unique information on food consumption patterns around the world, and a look at population health in the year 2050. Springham says there will be steep decline in fruit and vegetable consumption, with Asia hit hardest. Heart disease, stroke, and cancer will rise, he says, because those diseases are closely correlated to fruit and vegetable consumption. Short of halting or at least dramatically limiting climate change, the report highlights some of the ways we ought to be adapting to future challenges. That might be learning to grow more food on existing cropland, growing more food more efficiently with less water, for example, or perhaps more importantly, finding ways to use what we already grow more efficiently. Paul West wasn't involved in this study, but has been working on solutions with the University of Minnesota's Global Landscapes Initiative, which focuses on solutions for meeting current and future global food needs. Right now, about a third of all food that's produced is wasted. So that's a huge area of opportunity to increase the amount of food that's available around the world. What they've shown here is that there are certain places in the world climate change is going to have a much bigger impact than other places. So in some cases, it's looking at ways of offsetting the losses by meeting those needs through other means, like food trade system around the world. This is a trade system which will be through the United Nations or one of its subsidiaries, and this goes back to the Universal Human Rights Declaration, okay, where everyone has the right to adequate food, adequate housing, and adequate every other damn thing, and these clowns are going to be in control of it. Okay, so what they're going to do is they're going to have a, what did they call this? Like the food trade system around the world, okay? And they will control all of the food, and they will decide what you're going to eat and how much of it, and basically who's going to live and who's going to die, and it's all because of their lovely little models and their climate change hocus pocus, and it's time that we get on top of these guys. Now, these kind of stories bring me back to the newspaper that we got to get going. And what we find here is I ran into this thing on Facebook, which really kind of spells it out half decent. If I get to that thing, let's see. Where did I knock that out already? Just a minute, I know where I can find it. People still rely on media. They really, truly do rely on media. And this thing will open for me, yes. What it says here is that there are 1,500 newspapers, 1,100 magazines, 9,000 radio stations, 1,500 TV stations, and 2,400 publishers owned by 6 corporations. Now, how are we supposed to fight that? I mean, how are you supposed to? We're out here yammering away on the internet, trying to encourage people and trying to get people to do some research, and out there in the fictional world, the normal world, which is really the fictional world. There are 1,500 newspapers, 1,100 magazines, 9,000 radio stations, 1,500 TV stations, 2,400 publishers owned by 6 corporations, all spewing the same garbage. So it doesn't matter. We've got GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. Those few little companies or big companies control all of what I just said they control. There is no independent media left. Not straight up independent media. You'll find a little bit of independent media. It might be new age media, but it's still pushing the same jargon in a different, a little different twist to it. But it's still pushing us the same garbage, climate change, and yoga and all whatever. Right? They have their market. There's no real truth market out there. I mean, there is a market for truth. It ain't being produced. Which brings me back to Fred Rodell. Now, Fred Rodell was a guy who wrote a book called Woe Unto You Lawyers. And he went to law school. And when he got through law school, he decided he wasn't ever going to be a lawyer because the whole system of law, which is legal, I'm not talking about real law, we're talking about what passes as law, legal, And, he just bitch slapped it. He tore it to pieces. It is just a criminal entity, the legal system. And he's right on that. It is. It's criminal. But you can't do anything with a lawyer. And even if you're not directly exposed to a lawyer, you're exposed to a lawyer. Okay? The lawyer's got their fingers on everything. They write legalese into your legislature or whatever comes through the legislature. Okay? And they write it for their friends who have big companies, who have other lawyers. And if you look in any government setup, you will find that most of the people that rise to the top in those governments just happen to be lawyers. Now, Fred kind of reminds me in a way of me a little bit, although I never went to law school. And that is that if I can find that piece, Dehaim here. So this is the Law Hall of Fame. Fred Rodell, 1907-1980, a lifetime of honesty. Brutal honesty in the sense of that rare ability of professional introspection is hard to come by in the law, and perhaps, in all fairness to the 99.9% of lawyers who are honest, honesty is perhaps not the right word. Law is a complex area, the cousin of religion, with nothing really to sink your teeth into like an apple was to Isaac Newton. So for a couple of years in law school, and then for several decades as a lawyer, the lawyer is quickly immersed in an invisible patronage system which inoculates an inherent loathing of true and honest introspection of the law by its very priests. This creates an environment where change is virtually impossible and where judicial influence overreaches to stifle reform. Ongoing adaptation, reform is necessary ingredient for all modern institutions, aka change management. Lawyers tend to keep their mouths shut on reform or defer to the judges, neither a truly honest contribution to the adaptation of the institutions of law and justice, of which they are the priests. This is why Fred Rodell is one of the most amazing legal thinkers of all time, because in spite of having gone through that gauntlet, he emerged as a brutally honest and very outspoken critic of the refusal of the contemporary minds of law to adapt, to change, to evolve. His opinion on old law and the aging legal institutions, a rare but clear voice like a bird cutting through the morning air. He knew a naked emperor when he saw one. Fred Rodell's are extremely rare because criticism of the law and true and genuine and motivation for reform is not welcome and is rarely a good career move for any attorney, but Rodell didn't care. Law and justice first, Fred Rodell second. This is a guy that hung himself right out there. And he kind of reminds me, here's Fred Rodell just out in the entire legal system for what it is, a complete and total fraud. One man, one voice. And he stuck to his guns till he died. Somebody didn't shoot him a long time ago. Rodell paid for his criticisms of the legal profession. Dean Eugene Rostow of Yale Law School refused to name him to an endowed facility chair as are most other tenured faculty. He and many others felt that it was because of his active criticism of the legal profession. And he once said that by the time I got through law school, I had decided that I never wanted to practice law, and I never have. Although he did teach at Yale. In law school, Yale graduating in 1931, he had an opportunity of befriending the slightly older and later to become United States Supreme Court Justice William Orville Douglas. They both cherished a lifetime of correspondence on the issue of law reform. In 1939, he published his first book, the much-quoted "Woe Unto You Lawyers." He was very harsh on the profession, calling it a high-class, calling it a high-class racket, and adding that if the citizenry only knew how many of the mighty processes of law are merely logical legerdemain, deception, or trickery, they would not long let the lawyers lead them around by the nose. Learning the lawyer's talk and the lawyer's way of thinking, learning to discuss the pros and cons of, say, pure food law in terms of, Anyways, it is through the medium of their weird and wordy mental gymnastics that the lawyers lay down the rules under which we live. And it is only because the average man cannot play their game and so cannot see for himself how intrinsically empty of meaning their playthings are that the lawyers continue to get away with it. And he's absolutely correct. I mean, legal is not law. Never was, never will be, and it can't be. It is a con. Started as a con, it continues as a con, as a deception. And we've all been caught up in it. Thus began Professor Rudell's career of aggressive, no-holds-barred approach to genuine and ongoing law reform and a distinct taste for the old boys club that guards the hallways still to this day. And that old boys club did not like Fred Rodell and ostracized him at most every opportunity. On one occasion, a group of legal stogies from England refused to appear on the podium of the same legal conference built as him. But Rodell taught his philosophy to his students and put out book after book calling lawyers to their responsibilities with their sacred employment. He was got sick in 1965 and retired in 1973. One of his teaching colleagues described him in these words: here's to give him hell, Fred Rodell, irresponsive, irrefutable, irreversible, irrevocable, irremovable, and totally irresistible. And I wish everybody would read Woe Unto You Lawyers by Fred Rodell. It's very important. I mean, he absolutely tears to pieces the legal system. And he's absolutely right all the way through that. It's only a 160-page book. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do read it. It's really, really important that you do read it. Wrote a lot of papers, a lot of articles, and we have to, if we're going to turn this around, the court system is a lawyer system. Your political system is a lawyer system. Your corporate system is a lawyer system. Everything has a lawyer attached to it somewhere. Okay. And we need to run them out. I mean, the stories from way back at the early colonial times, I mean, they looked at these lawyers as vermin. They called them vermin. They kept running them out of their colonies or their little towns and villages, and somehow they'd sneak back in. Well, now they run your government. And we need to do something about that. Anyways, it kind of reminds me of this because the town I am in, I've been completely ostracized for what I do. And it kind of reminds me, he's a single voice. He's a single voice, Fred Rodell was, as far as the legal system goes. And I really would like to take my hat off to him and thank him for what he's done. I wish I would have found this a little bit sooner. But I mean, we all know this from our research, that the legal system is not law and that it is a scam. And it's nice to see someone who is actually in the business not in the business of being a lawyer, but having gone to law school and that, and deciding he couldn't be a lawyer because of what this whole thing is. But it's the same thing. We got to speak up. You know, when I was running around with this green energy stuff and explaining to people the fraud and where it came from and what it meant and all this kind of stuff, people have a hard time reading enough documents. I think they just looking for somebody to help them out. You know, well, maybe the conservatives will help us out, or maybe the liberals will help us out, and so they vote them in, vote them out, and they're not getting anywhere. And there's more windmills and that, and inflicting harm upon more and more people all the time. And I was always kind of like the, I guess, odd man out or whatever. And I will never forget that day that I was at that. It was a big, big meeting, and industry ministers and all that kind of stuff there. And I talked to some of the reporters. They had no clue what they were writing. You know, they go, it says, like, who are you writing for? Oh, Rural something or another magazine or whatever. And they said, do you understand any of this stuff? Nope. You done any research on any of this stuff? Nope. So what are you writing? Well, they just told me to come here and write what they tell me to write, basically. And that's propaganda, just keeps going. So I go outside, have a smoke, and that reporter, he and I used to run into each other quite often. And, I tried to explain this to him for the longest time, the fraud. And, we got this huge hall full of people and different speakers all over the place. And all grubbing for the subsidy money, which came out of your pockets. And I'm out there having a smoke, and he comes up to me and he goes, Ron, you keep telling me you're right and they're wrong. I said, I am right and they are wrong. And he said, you telling me that you, the one single man, are correct and everybody in that big building is wrong? That your message is the right message, that this is all a complete fraud, and their message is this is green, clean, free energy to save us from climate change, and a really damn nonsensical reason for doing this. I go, yeah, that would be right. That reporter's having a real hard time with it, and he did finally show up at my house sometime later, called me up, came over, asked him what he was up to, and he said he couldn't get the picture out of his head of me standing there out there having a smoke with him, the one dissenting voice of all those people, all those government people, all those, caring for the environment people. And then he finally, he says to me, I finally had a chance to do some of the research you told me to look at. And I go, and? He said, you're absolutely correct. This is a huge fraud. And it is a huge fraud. And it's harmed many, many people. And so it's like Fred Rodell, a lone dissenting voice. Now people have to say, well, and an awful lot of people would say, well, Fred's crazy. Ron's crazy. How can he be right and everybody else be wrong? How is that possible? And I can imagine Fred got some, well, it does say he was ostracized. But the point is, Fred is right. And it is a fraud. It's a very nasty fraud. And we have to make it right. And we have to expose it for what it is. Which brings me back to the need for a newspaper. Because when we have basically no voice, which we basically don't have, we have to counter their propaganda with our propaganda. And I'm hoping that we can put a core of people together. Now, I know Alex, who's been calling in pretty regular lately, who did, kind of like Fred Rodell, go through the system. He went to be a journalist, and when he went through, he decided that he couldn't be a journalist.
Hello.
Yes. Who
Ron.
be I speaking to?
This is Alex.
Well, boy, that's right on cue. Hot damn. How you keeping? I mean, you couldn't have queued that up any better.
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm well.
Just been looking up some of this stuff regarding media ownership in Canada, actually. Now that I heard you talking about it, I started looking into it a little bit. It's not so bad in Canada as I believe the graphic that you're referring to was the United States. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it is it's really heavily concentrated. I got a document here from a website called newspaperscanada.ca, and it says as of January, there were supposedly 102 daily newspapers in Canada. Of those 102, there are 6 independent. And 45 of them are owned by Post Media / Sun Media.
Yeah, and then you have Quebecor, right?
Yeah, Quebecor owns
the Sun News chain. Or they used to. I think
actually, no, Post Media owns the Toronto Sun now, according to this.
Okay, but
Quebecor only owns three publications right now, according to this, as of January.
Okay.
But, sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, even the independents, like our local independent newspaper here, right?
Yeah.
We have a chain paper, which would be, I can't remember which, but it's a major media thing. And but we have an independent newspaper, but it's not independent. It's independent, but it's not independent. And the reason I say it's not independent, the gentleman that started it used to work for the other newspaper when he was young, and he didn't like what they were printing, so he went and started his own newspaper, be independent. And as time goes by, when he was putting out some articles that were kind of questioning the windmills and the green energy and all this kind of stuff, what the municipality did was they pulled their advertising out of his newspaper, okay, of which he can't survive without.
Right.
Okay.
So he started to toe the line again.
Yeah, they had made the decision that they were not going to fund both papers, and so they pulled his advertising, the municipal advertising, and they were going in the toilet quick, and he capitulated, and all of a sudden he was all pro, anything to do with Agenda 21 kind of crap, right? So while it's still called the Independent, it is not the Independent, right? So you got to be really careful with the word of independent.
Independent in name only, right?
Right. right. If you're not towing the line, you're not going to pull that advertising, right? And that is the real challenge, right? To put out a truly independent newspaper.
Yes. Yeah.
But because
sorry, what was that?
Well, we have an advantage, okay? We don't have a physical building where we're paying rent or mortgages on. We don't have a physical staff or,
hardly any overhead at all.
None. For all intents and purposes, it's basically overhead free.
Yeah.
So we don't really be dependent for our light bills, say, or our water bills, or any of those things from a government agency that's putting in their local, whatever notices they put in the paper that they pay for. So we do have a huge advantage there. And then, like you were saying, Joe the painter will advertise with us. So there are advertising dollars to get. So we have that option, and we keep it lean and mean, and keep the overhead down. And if we do, like I was saying, do replicas, right? Just basically changing out the center pages, and the rest of it's the same. The production cost goes straight down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so it says here as of January, three biggest companies in terms of media holdings are Post Media owns 45, TC Media owns 11, and Torstar owns 9. It's kind of fragmented after that, but I was looking at the Post Media, their board of directors, right?
Uh-huh.
And really trying to put that into perspective, right? They own, three of the biggest publications in the country, right? National Post, Toronto Sun, and 24 Hours, Vancouver and Toronto, right? That's the free one that's given out on all the buses and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
So, right, and the board of directors is, I believe, 12 people. So you got a dozen people who have a monopoly, pseudo-monopoly on your mind in this country.
Yeah.
And that, the people really need that to be put in perspective for them.
Well, I got a kick
Right?
out of, I got a kick out of Sun Media, because Sun Media is blasting away at green energy, and they're blasting away at this and that, and people are going, that's go get them.
Well, I did actually like some of what they did, but
but okay, Sun Media was owned by Quebecor, right? So you have Sun Media bitching and complaining about David Suzuki and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then when you go back to Quebecor board of directors, who's on the board of directors there? Brian Mulrooney, the guy that signed us on to Agenda 21.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's it's just playing to the right mind is all it's doing.
No, it's totally controlled opposition.
Yeah. So it's like you're pretty young, but I remember back in the 70s. If you haven't never watched the movie Network, you got to watch it, because that was.
I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've seen quite a few clips of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me the most important clip was the boardroom clip, by a long shot. A lot of people were we're mad as hell, we're not going to take it anymore. That's the protesters, right? Who the hierarchy knows are never going to do anything, right?
That's right.
So, but the boardroom scene is the killer scene, but that's actually based on reality, because at the same time, I don't know, it was 74, so we had the fake oil crisis when we were pushing the green stuff, and then around 76. There was getting to be some pushback, right? There was a lot of independent media up until that point, a lot of independent media. And then they started pushing their green movement, and they were getting pushback from the independents. So just like in the movie Network, that's when the huge amalgamation of media hit. Okay, huge conglomerates were buying up everything small, right? And it's got to the point now, even there's a magazine out called Alive Magazine out of Vancouver, I believe it is. It has a huge circulation. And my brother-in-law's wife has lupus, I think it is. So she was getting this Alive Magazine, health products and all that kind of stuff. And it was like all of a sudden it switched, right? And
the tone and everything, right?
And all of a sudden it was full of Suzuki and global warming and all this kind of stuff, right? Where'd that come from? But that's what they did. They went through here and bought any publication up that had a good circulation, right? And just so that so they have an audience that is looking at health foods, and it's a big audience. So okay, we'll buy that, and then we'll throw our propaganda, and we'll keep the other stuff in there, but then we'll fit the propaganda in while the readers who like this magazine, and that's what they've done across the country, across the world. The independent science magazines are most definitely not independent science magazines. They may have been at one time, but they most definitely are not now. You know, I've had people say, well, you know, I know global warming is real because I read Scientific American. Well, sorry, go find out who owns the damn thing, right? You silly bugger.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, see that this is what people need to have drilled into their heads is what is behind the message that you're consuming.
mhm.
That's way more important than what the content of the message is.
Yeah, who's
And people
controlling?
can't seem to get that through their friggin' heads, right? It's just
Yeah, they're just surface dwellers, right? They can't get in
yeah,
behind. They just the shiny picture. Oh, that's lovely, and that's the problem, and that's they have to be retrained
yes,
to
yeah.
understand what they're reading and why it's there in the first place. You know, and then they'll get better at it. So I'm really hopeful that. You know, I would think anybody that listens to this show would want to participate in this because everybody that listens to the show is supposed to care about the truth and is supposed to be concerned for the future of who's coming, you know, the kids and who's coming after that. Need to
You'd
step up
hope
to
so.
the plate. Need to step up to the plate. So I guess the next stage is basically to work up a paper and get the articles organized, and then we'll put up a website, and we will I guess put a whatever you call that PayPal tab on it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
start trying to raise some money, and because we need to get this thing. I'm not, you know, people say, well, what good will it do in a little town, right? Well, I'm not talking about a little town. I'm talking about running this sucker across the country,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, we got to grow it, and but the first thing we have to do is show that we can do it,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
people will
Yeah.
pick it up from there. Make it easy for them, right? Because we're Canadians, we want things easy. You know, we don't want to put too much effort out. Yeah, I mean, I am adamant that we get this thing going. It has to get going. I've been extremely busy with some personal stuff that had me attended to here for the last
Right, right.
couple of months. It's been very tense around here, but I think that maybe hopefully that will come to a conclusion shortly, and then we can let's go get it done. You know.
Yeah, and I think that the whole media analysis thing should be number one thing, at least to start to explain these things to people. You know, like the idea that the editor of a newspaper really has any say in the final publication is ludicrous. People need to understand that, right? Like the good example of that was the last federal election. I think it was Andrew Coyne who had he resigned as one specific position at the Post. He's still there, but he resigned as some sort of editorial director or something because Post Media was just ordering from the top down to all their publications. You know, you must write an editorial favorable to Stephen Harper. Period, you know, but they write the editorials as if it's coming from them, right? It's very disingenuous. You know, it's almost fraudulent in a sense, you know, and people need to have that drilled into their heads that that's what's going on.
Yeah, while Coyne may have written it or somebody else wrote the article, it's a
Yeah,
top-down decision. Hey, Coyne, what? We need this. We need this slant on Harper. Get it out there, please.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's all it is.
But it's portrayed as if it's coming from him, and right, and I think that's, you know, or supposedly according to him, that's why he couldn't do it. Right, he got too much integrity for that, supposedly. But but
Still at the Post, though, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you're not, you know, you don't have too much integrity, just a little bit.
No, these columnists, Ron, they're hacks, right?
Oh,
They write what they're told to write.
oh, I've known that. You know, I mean, it's absolutely obvious.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, that's what they do, and they don't care. I had it out with the editorial staff of the Toronto Sun a few years back, and it was ludicrous.
The Toronto Sun, eh?
Or not Toronto Sun, the Toronto Star. And
the Star.
Yeah, it was ludicrous, right? We write for our readers. Maybe you're not proper to be one of our readers. It was ludicrous, right? And I thought, you guys get paid for this crap, right? And it was like I was talking to a bunch of gatekeepers, right? These people did not come across as editorial staff at all. They just came across as gatekeepers, right? And they write what they're told to write, whether it's coming from the CFR or it's coming from the United Nations or it's coming from somewhere. But they do not write what they wish to write. That's for damn sure. They write what they're told to write. And And so
100%.
Yeah, so we have a wonderful opportunity to like this Toronto Street News. Actually, I was talking to Farmer George last night or whenever, and he was asked me about if I knew about Toronto Street News, and I know the gentleman that runs it, and he's doing the best he can. He puts out I don't know how many copies he puts out, probably 5,000 or something, but he's getting it used to come out every, I don't know, once a month or every 2 weeks or something, and now I think he's getting older now. I think it's once every 2 months or something. And, it just goes downtown Toronto, right? Bay Street and all through there, right? And, So, but I mean, he's doing his best, right? And we need to, there is not a community in this country, big or small, that doesn't have the same problems facing it, because they're all it's all templated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
all planned.
Yeah, it's all planned, so we can move the information anywhere to any town, anywhere, anytime. And we just need some people in each of these places to say, you know what, I'll step up to the plate and take a little bit of responsibility. I'll get Fred's Cabs to add, or I'll get Jimmy's Garage to add, or Sue's Pizza Joint, or whatever to advertise in this thing to help fund it. And you guys create it, and we will get that center section in there of local news that people can attach to and realize that that's for local stuff. And get this damn thing out there.
Yes.
It's look at it as an adventure, right? Don't look at it as a job, man. It's an adventure. Life's an adventure, right? And it's something that a few people putting a few hours a week in, we can run this thing. It's not.
I think so.
Yeah. I'm not being silly about this. I mean, you went through journalism school. This is pretty damn simple, actually, when you get right down to it.
It's just man hours.
Yeah, but if we get, and it doesn't matter where the men are or the women are. They can be on the West Coast, the East Coast. They can be in Northwest Territories.
That's right.
We just need people that have input, that understand what's going on, who can put it down on a piece of paper, and put in their contribution to it, and smile. Look what I did. Look what we did. It's fantastic.
Yeah. As long as they're like-minded people, they really understand what's going on and understand what the intention of the publication is. Then anyone should be able to write for it.
Absolutely. We got to make sure that we have the message straight. I don't want to mess with people, right? I don't like disinfo at all. Straight message, easy, and that's it. Okay, we're out of time. Right. Thanks, Alex, for calling in. We're going to get on top of this thing. Back here on Thursday.
You're welcome, Ron.
7 till 8. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for the chat. And everybody be cool and think about the fact you're going to win. Okay? Take care. We're out.